Colorado's spring game is just a few days away, and there are a handful of battles that you need to look out for. Running back is one of them. I'm going to tell you about all the other battles you need to look out for and more on today's episode of Locked On Buffs.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Bohr. But today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now for free on the App Store or Google Play. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We're talking about spring position battles for the Colorado Buffaloes because there's quite a few of them. And obviously, with all of the departures, things got a little more interesting. And with all of the well-off media videos that come out, I think it gets even more interesting, realistically. So let's dive in. If you guys don't remember, Alton McCaskill, out. Savion Wilkerson, out. Crazy, right? Dylan Edwards, also out. I think he's the biggest loss of the Coach Prime era in the transfer portal, maybe of Coach Prime's career, of all the players he's lost in between his time over at Colorado and at Jackson State. I think Dylan Edwards is kind of the biggest loss. So who do we look out for in that running back room now? Well, there's two names that stand out to me. One of them's got to be running back Michael Welch. He comes in as an early enrollee, kind of makes an impact right away. The coaches were all praising him a ton, and they were all like, Michael Welch is coming in here to make an impact, and Michael Welch is coming in here to steal someone's job. And now I would say he's the front runner to be the starter. Realistically, Dallin Hayden, the Ohio State transfer, is someone who will come during fall camp and will contend for that starting role. But Michael Welch has the advantage right now, and he could use this spring game as a way to elevate himself and elevate himself on the depth chart altogether. You also got to look out for Charlie Offerdahl. Realistically, Charlie Offerdahl is not the most when you think of a running back, you don't think of a guy like Charlie Offerdahl, a walk-on guy who only had a couple carries last season, didn't really play at all. And all of a sudden, Coach Prime is in video saying that, you know what, Charlie's the second team running back till I say so. And in a recent video, he told Charlie's parents, like, hey, Charlie could be the starter. He said something to that degree. And so Charlie Offerdahl, former or current walk-on, he's someone to look out for a running back. For a guy like him, he's trying to earn a couple things. He's trying to earn his way up the depth chart and get into a role where he could play consistently. And he's also probably trying to earn that scholarship. So look out for Charlie Offerdahl kind of working his way into the mix. Obviously, running backs is a huge position of need now. Then, and this is a very interesting position battle because it's one where I think Colorado feels like they have it settled, but I don't know if they have it settled by any means at all. You got to look at wide receiver. Obviously, Travis Hunter's one. Then you have Jimmy Horn and LeJounte Wester fighting for the other spot. And then you have guys like Omarion Miller. You have guys like, let's see, who else? Not Jimmy Horn Jr. Terrell Timmons is in there. Caleb Mathis who wants to have a role. There's so many guys vying for those quality wide receiver snaps before guys like Will Shepherd get in, before guys like Draylon Miller get in. So there's going to be a lot of emphasis on these wide receivers. Who steps up? Who kind of claims that third spot or claims that spot between Jimmy and LeJounte? Because I do think that those guys are going to be duking it out for their starting role this upcoming season. Staying with the offense, let's go look at the offense line. So I would say, from what I've been told and what I've been hearing, Jordan Seaton, Justin Mayers, left tackle, left guard, sure. Center, you got Yakiri Walker and Hank Zelinkas going at it. You have at right guard, Tyler Brown, last year transferred in, wasn't ruled eligible by the NCAA. Tyler Johnson played at Houston, played a lot of quality snaps at Houston this past season. They're duking it out. Then over at right tackle, you have Khalil Benson and Phillip Houston. So they have a ton of guys here. You have Peyton Kirkland, who's not going to be there yet, but the Texas transfer is going to get in the mix. So from center on over to the right side, I would say those positions are up for grabs. And so those guys really need to have a good spring game, kind of make sure they don't touch two, basically. If you don't let anyone touch two, the job is probably yours. But if people are getting close to Shedeur, it's going to be a little difficult to hold on to that job. Swinging over to the defensive side of the ball, we're going defensive line in the middle. Realistically, you have guys like Torian Carter, Amari McNeil, Chidozie Nwankwu and Quinn Barnes all duking it out for snaps in the middle there. You have Quincy Wiggins and Samuel O, Keaton Wade on the edges. So they have a lot of, and I'm saying a lot of bodies in the defensive line room that are really trying to prove themselves and kind of win a job, kind of claim that starting job. And whether or not they're going to get it is going to be dependent on, one, can they get pressure on Shedeur? Two, can they slow down the run? Colorado wants to establish a run a little bit more. Can you stop the run, or are you not able to clog rushing lanes? So look out for the defense line. And then this is, I think, my last one. Yeah, looking at my depth chart right now. You got to go look at the corner spots. Obviously, you have Travis Hunter. So that's one of them. But, and this is a big but, who's going to be that other corner? They brought in Preston Hodge. They brought in DJ McKinney. They have a Marion Cooper who started most of the games opposite of Travis Hunter last year. Who out of those three can kind of claim that starting spot? Realistically, they're going to be tested. Shedeur is one of the top quarterbacks in the country. They're going to be tested. They're going to be pushed by these talented wide receivers. So if they could have a sort of standout performance, you could claim that starting spot. There is no Cormani McLean. There is no youngster corner that I see taking the spot for them. So McKinney, Hodge, look out for them. They're going to be duking it out. And then also got to give a special shout out to the backup quarterback spot, just because if Shedeur Sanders were to go down, which God forbid, you don't want anyone to get injured, you got to know who you have behind him. Are they trustworthy? Can they live up to, can the offense operate with them? So Ryan Staub and Walter Taylor are going to be duking it out there. You guys comment below which position battle you are looking forward to the most, and we'll kind of discuss in the comment sections. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the latest on Colorado's transfer portal targets. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL, and baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I'm Kevin Borba. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day. Make me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in. We're talking about portal targets for the Colorado Buffaloes. Excuse me. I was going to say targets in the portal. Jumbled that up a little bit, but let's dive in. Kobe Bryant. First of all, I talked about him. I think it was the day on Sunday when I did my breakdown of what went wrong with Cormani McLean and all that jazz. I talked about him, Kobe Bryant, corner for Kansas. He kind of tweeted, or I guess was teasing a team up with Travis Hunter. And I don't know if he meant it to be like, you know what, I'm thinking of coming to Colorado, or, I think I'm one of the best corners in the country, and I think it's me and Travis Hunter. So anyway, according to Pete Thamel today, a report by Pete Thamel said Kansas corner Kobe Bryant has announced he's staying at the school. He'd been linked publicly to Colorado, but says he's not entering the transfer portal. He was first team All Big 12 in 2022. So obviously they're not going to get him. But Chidozie Nwankwu, who you guys know, fan favorite, I think he's going to be one of the bigger sort of guys for Colorado this upcoming season in the trenches. He is out here actively recruiting guys on social media. So one of his former teammates at Houston, Jalen Emery, entered the portal, 5'9", 175, defensive back. This past year, he had 9 total tackles. Let's see, 1 pass deflection. But in 2022, 26 total tackles, 7 pass deflections, no career interceptions. He only played in 4 games this past year. Chidozie wants him. He thinks that he's a good guy to add to this corner room. I think he's realistically, the more corner help, the better. You never know if someone gets injured. You never know if you need to move people around. The more people can move around, the easier it gets. Then they're also possibly going to be in the mix for Texas A&M center Bryce Foxter, 3-year starter for the Aggies, freshman All-American back in 2021. That's another guy to look out for. And then, as we all know, Colorado needs linebackers, and they need linebacker help bad. They had DJ Lundy for all of, I think it was like a day or two, and then he backed off his pledge. And so I was like, oh no, where do they go next? Well, that guy that they're trying to get is Nakai Hill-Green, former Michigan and Charlotte linebacker, who has cut his list of schools down to 4. It's Arkansas, it's Colorado, it's Louisville, it's Missouri. He's going to announce his commitment on Sunday. He visited Arkansas last week before spending the weekend in Boulder. He also took a trip to Texas A&M. And realistically, the more linebacker help, the better. They just need help. They need help stopping the run. They need help in coverage. They need help in everything a linebacker does. Colorado needs help doing because they do not have enough bodies. They do not have enough size. They do not have enough dudes in that linebacker room. So tough mix, really, very tough sort of draw. And then Penny Boone, who was a running back that a lot of people were hoping Colorado would get, narrowed it down to Georgia and Kentucky, so they're out of the mix there. They do have a visit coming up from Rashad Amos, who I think, and I talked about him a few months ago, and I talked about him recently. He is someone who this running back room could greatly use. He starts his career, we'll just go this way, starts his career at South Carolina, totals 20 carries, transfers to Miami of Ohio, where he gets an opportunity to be the lead back, 210 carries, 1,075 yards, 5.1 yards per carry, 13 touchdowns. He also had 6 catches for 37 yards this past season. Clearly, he is a guy that thrived this past year, kind of used Miami of Ohio to kind of boost his status, boost his market, if you will. If you have him, Dallin Hayden, and Michael Welch, that's a very solid trio of running backs. You also have Charlie Offerdahl, who Coach Prime seems to love, and maybe you go out and get another one. You also have a guy like Cameron McKell, who could play running back. So those are the transfer portal targets that I think are standing out the most. I look at the transfer portal right now, and I'm going to pull up the rankings because realistically, Colorado has, for every guy they lose, that's a guy they could bring in. So you have to think about it that way. The more people they lose, the more they can bring in. Now, obviously, Dylan Edwards, big loss. There's no downplaying that. He is someone that I would have loved for them to keep, just simply due to the fact that he is a dynamic weapon. He could have affected the game in the pass, in the run, whatever it may be. But either way, they're without Dylan Edwards. But I look at these top portal guys, and I'm like, okay, this is where Colorado needs to lean. Maybe you go pursue a Tacario Davis, a corner out of Arizona, who I think a lot of people expect him to follow. Jed Fish to Washington, Jacoby Matthews, safety, Texas A&M, more depth in the secondary. I think he could honestly start with Shiloh. He'd probably push Cameron Summer-Craig for that starting spot. Derek Harmon, defensive lineman, Michigan State, quality experience over the past couple of years. This other one's a big one. And obviously, I think Texas is kind of viewed as the favorite right now. But if you could get a guy like, I think it's Dominic Williams, how you pronounce it, it's spelled differently. He has 33 total tackles this past season, 3 sacks, and is just an absolute force to be reckoned with. 6'2", 632. He's a big body. Elijah Herring, linebacker, top 15 guy in the portal. They could really use him. That's a guy who I think Colorado's already been in contact with. They were at one point viewed as the favorite to land him. Whether or not they get him to be seen, but I think that's another position in need. The list just goes on and on. They could add another tackle, and Andrew Chamblee from Arkansas. He played quite a few games. I think he started 8 games this past year for Arkansas. Simeon Price, running back from Mississippi State transfer, would be another one to go look out for. Christopher Ross, if they want an edge rusher from Texas. So there are a lot of guys out there in the portal right now. I expect Colorado to bring in a class of probably around 10 to 15 guys eventually once it's all said and done. And I do think that they're going to improve dramatically. I think a lot of people look at this Colorado roster and they want to criticize, but Coach Prime is improving the roster in his way, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, that's up to you, but he's improving the roster, and that's all you could ask for as a Colorado Buffaloes fan. So look out for that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the latest in Colorado's schedule change. But first, a word from our sponsors over at Monopoly Go. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors at Monopoly Go. I've been told I'm a competitive person. If you think that's true, that's okay, because my competitive side, we like to win, and my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly when you play, or where you play, on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I could charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now for free on the App Store and Google Play. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at Gametime. Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. So you can take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow my everydayers, the people that listen every single day, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. I appreciate you guys immensely. Couldn't even do the show without you. You guys make it possible. Let's talk about Colorado's first game of the season. It's an interesting one. They are welcoming North Dakota State, and it is going to be a battle. I think it is going to be one of the most interesting battles of the opening slate, I guess you could say. They are hosting, like I said, North Dakota State, who is one of the premier FCS programs. If you guys have never watched North Dakota State, just know they are the Alabama of the FCS level. They have won title after title after title. A little bit about them: they've won 17 national championships. And 37 conference championships. 9 of their titles have come over the past 14 years. They do have a new head coach in Tim Pulasic, I believe is how you say it. He was offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Wyoming. He even kind of teased beating Colorado in his first press conference, kind of threw a little shade there. He had to make it personal because why not? But you look at this game, and I think it's going to be one that a lot of people are going to be tuned into, especially now, because if you guys didn't know, they moved it to Wednesday. They moved it to Thursday. So rather than playing on Saturday or Friday, Colorado is instead going to be taking on North Dakota State on a Thursday, which I don't know if Coach Prime is going to love that. The Buffs come in as 7-point favorites, according to ESPN. And according to our sponsors over at FanDuel, it's one of those things where this is not a game where Colorado should be overlooking anyone. This is not a game where Colorado should be thinking, you know what, let's look ahead to Nebraska because we got North Dakota State on deck, and that's an easy win. Not an easy win by any means. I read a little breakdown about Colorado's sort of Thursday success. They are in total 31-20-2 when it comes to Thursday games. But they've only played 5 in the past 32 years, including 2 at home, with the most recent being against Arizona State in 2012. The Buffs are 7-3 in Thursday home games with wins against Stanford in 1990, West Virginia in 2008. Obviously, this is going to be an interesting one for 2 reasons. One, it's a Thursday night game. So Coach Prime kind of talked about how stupid he thought Friday night games were, because he was like, who schedules games like that? Well, Colorado apparently is getting another weekday game. I don't think the time has been announced yet. It is not, but I imagine it's going to be an evening game. So that game is going to be obviously tuned into by millions of viewers. That game is going to have a lot of people watching. And if you're Colorado, if you are Colorado, you can either, 1, make a statement, 2, kind of skate by, which would not be ideal, and people could worry about you prior to your Nebraska game, or you could get embarrassed. It's all up to you, but you know that a lot of people are going to be tuned into this game against North Dakota State, so you absolutely have to win this game. You have to be confident. You have to slow down their offense. Their rushing attack is always a dominant force, and you have to make sure that you don't get caught slacking week 1, because then if you lose to North Dakota State, if you're Colorado, then you travel to Nebraska and Colorado State, both of which are heated rivals. There's a lot of beef stemming from last year. And then you have Baylor and UCF right after that, and Kansas State. So it doesn't get easy if you start off 0-1. If you're Colorado, you got to take this game seriously. I think they'll win. I'll talk about it once it gets closer, but I thought this was a major change. Gives a lot of people a lot of opportunity to get their eyes on Colorado early, which I feel like Coach Prime and his team will welcome. It's just they have to make sure that they don't get caught lacking. Otherwise, it'll be a tough start to the season. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs and making me your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and I will see you guys tomorrow.